And then the buy now integration with Stripe takes someone to this page so they can just like pay here. And then when that Stripe, transaction goes through, I have a Zapier integration that takes that email that gets submitted, puts it into a Google Sheet. And then I ended up realizing that, and by the way, I ended up deciding to use a Google group to control access to the document. So instead of sending someone just like a PDF with all the instructions, which kind of locked in all the instructions at a moment in time, given that I was iterating a lot, I wanted to give people access to a dynamically updating resource of some kind. So that was why I decided to use Google Docs. But then I didn't want the Google Doc links to be easily, piratable and shared on the internet. So I ended up creating a Google group that if someone bought the Copilot, I would add them to a Google group, which then controlled access to the materials. And then this Zapier integration I had added that buyer email to a sheet. And then I had a separate Google app script run and take that email address and programmatically add it to the Google group that controls access to the documents. And then once that was confirmed, I had another Google app script email the person a link to, actually it emailed them a PDF that stays pretty static that includes the links to the updating materials. So that's kind of like and in that process, I learned you cannot programmatically add people to a Google group unless you have a Google Workspace account. So for a long time, I was kind of like punting on that. And then when I was in Europe, this was kind of like my big passion project while I was in Europe in August, is I ended up first week of August, vibe coded the website, set up the Stripe payment link, and fully just ripped the Band-Aid and moved all of my traffic from going to PayHip to going to my new site and the Stripe link.
And your level of involvement, like, with PayHip and now with kind of your custom webpage, is it the same basically? Like it's like fully automatic? Because let me start there. With PayHip, was it fully automatic? Someone would buy the Copilot and then they would just like get an email right away with access?
I had to make a trade-off that I was fine with getting it off the ground with the PayHip setup that was not something that I had solved until August. And the trade-off, because I was just biting, it was less of a limitation of the PayHip system and it was more of a limitation of the Google Workspace. So I was doing everything from my personal Gmail up until August. And then I just ran into this limitation where I could not programmatically add someone to a Google group unless I got the Workspace account. So I paid whatever, $15 a month, and I got the Workspace account for benerez.com. And then that's when I realized I could programmatically add someone to the Google group. And at that point, I started by doing that with the PayHip page first. So when someone bought from PayHip, I had Zapier scrape the emails I was getting from PayHip and automatically adding those emails to the Google Sheet, and then everything else worked the same it works today. So the only change I made to that process when I moved from PayHip to Stripe with my own site was just adding another Zapier integration that actually integrated directly with Stripe. So when someone made a purchase in Stripe, now that's the thing that triggered the Zapier workflow instead of the PayHip purchase. But the rest of the system I had built prior to that.
Yeah. So to summarize, kind of like the evolution was like PayHip with your Gmail, and that was kind of like this static like PDF that wasn't ideal.
And in that process, if you let's say someone in California purchased the Copilot at 11 p.m. their time, when it was 2 a.m. my time in New York,
which you're sleeping in
I'm
normal
sleeping.
night.
and what was happening is I initially I did have a Google group requirement. So what would happen is there was this period where someone bought it, but they could not yet access the materials until I woke up.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when I woke up, I look at my phone. I'm like, I sold the Copilot. I have to now I have a task. I have to go add them to this group. And then at some point I was like, screw it. I'm selling enough of these that workflow is just slowing me down. I don't want to be a bottleneck. I want people to get the content when they buy it. So I basically just made it so that there was no Google group limitation on the materials. So I just accepted the vulnerability risk. And then when I discovered that I could use this Zapier workflow plus the workspace, I brought back the Google group limitation. So only people in the Google group could do it because I had figured out a way to programmatically add people to the Google group.
Makes sense. So it was PayHip, Gmail, Ben still had to be on top of his shit. Otherwise people wouldn't get their Copilots. Then PayHip with, workspace with professional email. And then now it's full custom set up with your own website directly with Stripe.
Payment link, Google Workspace account, Google Apps Script. So yeah, right now someone can buy the Copilot while we're recording this podcast, and they'll get the Copilot materials delivered to them within like a minute or something.
Yeah. What's been really cool about this is that we've benefited for this with Insider Loops too, because we've learned from all this experience. And we actually still haven't earned the right to automate a lot of these things. Exactly. That's in the backlog. We'll get it when
we know how to do it when we're ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. So kind of,
I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm curious where you're going to go.
So I just added this yesterday, and it's so. One of the things that I mentioned is that when people ask me, "Hey, how can I work through this question?" What I do is I like to go to the Copilot and see what it comes up with, and then I prompt it to the point where I can actually create a share link to that session with the Copilot, and then I send it to the person asking me the question. I'm like, "Hey, like, take a look. Like, does this make sense? Like, do you have any specific follow-ups or things that the Copilot did that don't make sense?" Because I generally kind of like approve of this direction, right?
Yeah.
And so as I kind of think about why people buy my Copilot, it's like they probably end up trusting me for some reason. Like something that I've done has indicated that this will be trustworthy, this will be valuable. And so anything I can do to continue to enhance trust and give people value for free is something that I'm interested in. So I just added these two cards, and for those just listening, it's basically I have a section on my website for the Copilot just called like seeing the Copilot in action. And I added a card for a product sense demo and one for an analytical thinking demo. And what they do is they just take you to public share links of Claude chat sessions. So in this case, you could literally just see, I mean, you're not getting access to like the underlying files and instructions. You're just getting to see the output, right? So the idea is if you want more of this, you buy the Copilot to get this.